Okay, good morning. You're tuning in to the Board of County Commissioners. It is Thursday, February 10th, 2022. It is 10:05 a.m. For public attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel or join by calling 360-252-9020, PIN number 1234. I am Carolina Mejia, Chair of the Board. I am joined today by Vice Chair Ty Menser and Commissioner Gary Edwards. County Manager Ramiro Chavez sitting in the boardroom, and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell joining us via Zoom. Today we will start with the Office of the County Commissioner's Communications Plan.
Yeah, and Brian Dominique, our PIO, is going to walk you through this item.
Hello, Brian. I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners, County Manager, Assistant County Manager. It's good to be here with you today. Thank you for providing the time to talk about our communications plan for our office. I wanted to start the meeting off by first showing off this calendar that was given to me. It's called I Love My County Because, and people from around the county, students submitted artwork into the National Association of Counties. It just talks about why they love their county. Some of it's architecture. Some of it has to do with, like in Florida, alligators, just different things like that. And I show that because it really reminded me of why I love the work I do, and connecting people with their community and with their county. And over the last few years, that's what we've really tried to do with our communications planning. So I'm going to go ahead and start off today by just looking at the 2021 communications report to take a look at some of the stuff we did, and then I'll jump into what we're going to do in the future. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right, great. So our primary focus in 2021 was kind of building out our owned media structure. A lot of our communications planning from 2018 to now has been focused on how we tell our story. We didn't really have a lot of systems for that in 2018. So basically from now and up until 2021, that was our primary focus. So just some areas of focus, why that's important. So in 2021, we had 60 earned media placements. Essentially, that's media looking at what we do and then, telling their version of the story about it. We got a lot of that from social media usage, a lot of that from our Friday 5 newsletter, our weekly newsletter, and a lot of it just from county news stories and things like that. So us being able to share our story is helping others in turn, expand that narrative. So I wanted to highlight that and lift that up. And then I'll scroll down here, and then right here, county news subscribers. These are people who receive our Friday 5 newsletter. We saw an expansion of that from up 272, so we're sitting right below 800 subscribers right now. And for context, we've had this newsletter for just about 2 years, so we've seen some really good growth in that area. And then also our homepage views. So this is unique viewership. We had 290,156 homepage views. We put a lot of great information on our homepage. Links to information, big, decisions made and stuff of that nature. And I know we have the website redesign project going on right now. So I suspect once that's off the ground, we'll probably even see more viewership in this area. And then another thing I want to highlight here, like when I talk about earned media, backing up a little bit, is the Board of County Commissioners from 2020 to 2021 have been live streaming basically all of their meetings. We've seen a big uptick in earned media because of that. It gives greater access to the public to, the board's discussions and things like that. So that's been very helpful in being able to share our story as well. And then these are just some graphs that kind of illustrate some of the stuff I've already talked about. Like right here in August, we saw an uptick in our homepage views from 32,000 to 56,000. I think at the time we were dealing with some stuff related to the coronavirus and the Delta variant at the time, so that probably drove some of that traffic. Any questions so far? All right, moving on. So right here, last year we launched Coffee with the Commissioner. I know Commissioner Mejia and Commissioner Menzer have had opportunity to participate in that. We did 5 episodes of that. Those have been very successful. In fact, our last episode on property taxes was one of our highest viewed videos of the year. The great resource for the community. As a reminder, those are live streamed to our YouTube channel and also TC Media. So we're able to reach more people with that. And they're pretty easy to produce, much easier than our predecessor, the Thurston County Connection. And it's just a really great way for the community to connect about some complex issues that aren't necessarily easy to understand. So we did the Meet the Commissioners in February. Commissioner Mejia spoke with Jenica Machado, our Economic Development Manager, in March related to the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's affecting the local economy. And then we had retired tree planting advocate Bob Barnes come in for Earth Day to talk with Commissioner Menzer. That was another great one. And then we talked about some initiatives going on in terms of agriculture with Aslan Mead and Stephen Bramwell. And then again, that one with the Treasurer's Office on property taxes. So I'm personally really proud of this series, and I hope we're able to continue it again into the future. And right here is just look at our county newsroom. I talked about some of our own media channels. This is where we house those. We can do videos. That's where we house our newsletters at, our feature stories, things like that. So we've been pretty busy. We had 5 TV programs, which were those Coffee with Commissioners, 3 information videos, and then we did 2 events, and I'll highlight that here later on in the presentation. And then, we had 9 print stories that we wrote for that, and then 52 newsletters. So a newsletter a week, with the exception of a few here and there. So yeah, pretty busy. And this is just our big videos. So so we had 641 views for our public service announcement on vaccines. Watch time was 8.5 hours for that. We were actually able to get some radio spots with these where they would pull audio out of it. I don't think they ran the full 3 minutes of it, but we were able to get some traction with that. And then we had 16 hours of watch time for the Coffee with the Commissioner. Unfortunately, I don't have data for what goes on the TC Media channel, but from anecdotal evidence, I have heard that people have seen it there. So it is being viewed there as well. And then I don't really have a lot of data on this, but I did want to lift it up because it is it's one of our big employee engagement tools, is our Thurston Insider. So last year we did a survey on internal communication, and about 4.2% of the county workforce responded to that survey. So not a huge snapshot, but decent. And 81% said that they read the county's monthly staff newsletter once a month. So that was really good. We were able to kind of reframe that. We actually launched a annual double issue centered around the winter holidays and stuff like that. That really focuses on the employee engagement side of things. We tell a lot of stories about the employees that work here and stories of that nature, and that's been very successful. That actually came out of that survey. And then I mentioned the community engagement events we had. So Commissioner Menzer hosted a climate talk panel discussion centered around the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. We had 6 people watching the live stream, which isn't unusual. What we usually see is people watching it after the fact. And within the first week, we had about 100 views afterwards. And we've reached 190 people that watched that panel discussion. And I think we sat somewhere about 35 people had actually registered to attend the event, submitted questions and things like that. So that was our first time doing a virtual only event. So I think now that we've been able to do that, we'll probably get some more practice on that. And then Megan Porter, our public information supervisor, she worked on the temporary safe parking project with Public Health and Social Services. That included a production of an informational video and also a public meeting. About 405 people watched that public meeting. I don't have specifics on live stream data, but that was widely viewed and widely participated in. Probably one of our major events of last year. So that's just an overview of where we're at and what we've done in 2021. Are there any questions about this before I move on to what we're looking at in the future?
Thank you, Brian. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, Brian's doing a great job. Thanks.
Commissioner Menser? Okay. Thank you, Brian.
All right, so I'm going to hop over to where we're looking at to the future. This is our strategic communications plan for the Board of County Commissioners in 2022 and 2023. So we started doing strategic communications planning for the Board of County Commissioners in 2018. Again, our primary in 2018, our focus was kind of building on baselines and really seeing what our needs were. And we realized that we weren't being very effective at, sharing our own story. So that's when we developed some strategies and tactics to shape our own, tell our own story, connect people with their county government in different ways. So, so from 2018 to 2021, that was our primary focus. So in 2022 and 2023, what we're really going to focus on is basically building some processes, some procedures, and kind of just polishing up those tools we've already built to make better use of them. So we're not going to be looking at adding anything new or creating any new programming or anything like that. It's really going to be looking at what we have and exploring how we can use it more effectively. So that's where we sit. And this plan talks a little bit about that. So this is just an agenda, just a cool little quote I found about communication that I threw in there. And so this page right here is pretty important. So this talks about everything we've done up until this point. We've seen a 99% increase in average media placements. I have a caveat on that only because we didn't start tracking media placements until 2018. So I didn't have any data. So of course we had a huge uptick in it. So that you'll likely see that balance out later on. And then for owned media, 33% growth in there. We did have some owned media tools prior to 2018. And we just revamped them and we've seen some growth there. And then our direct to constituent, our direct resident stuff has seen 100% growth. As far as I know, we haven't done any of that type of work up until 2018. Thinking of our offsite Board of County Commissioners meetings, our panel discussions, and things of that nature. So we've seen an uptick there. So that number will likely balance out too, and we'll have a little bit more data on it. But we've been pretty busy in this area. So this graph right here is a good explanation of everything I've talked about so far. So in 2018 was our baseline year. 2019, we were building our capacity for owned media. And then in 2021, we focused on expanding that capacity. So right now, our focus for the next 2 years is going to be establishing those ongoing operations around those channels. And then it looks at 2024 and 2025 and beyond that. So in 2026, we'll likely be going back to a baseline year where we reassess everything we've done over the last, 8+ years and looking at, developing an initial set of baselines around that. And then you kind of start to cycle over again. So that's generally how communications planning works in the strategic setting. So we're just following that same methodology. And this just provides some background information about everything I've talked about so far. So here gets into the fun part. So strategic goal number 1. The Public Information Office develops a framework to enhance long-term communications planning and implementation with county departments. So what we're looking at here is kind of developing what we call a desk manual. That's basically going to be an SOP, if you're familiar with that, standard operation procedures. We're going to be looking at ways to leverage getting like print stories for the departments to be able to tell their story a little bit better, doing some feature articles about, maybe things like our conservation futures funding and things like that. Stuff that's, not really necessarily wide known, but, really important for the community to know about. So we're going to be focusing on how we shape that story a little bit better. So there's some objectives lined under there. I won't read through all of them, but the big thing is kind of just developing those processes and procedures and, creating some ways that that our work groups can, operate better by developing, things like charters and stuff like that. Strategic goal number 2, the Public Information Office develops schedules and protocols for departments to enhance the telling of the county story through a regular production or product release interval. So right now, our own media channels really work on an as-needed basis. So departments are responsible for their own communications planning. So they'll determine if they want to write a news story or include something in the Friday 5. What we're realizing is it makes our product interval release kind of sporadic. So we want to provide some structure for the departments to operate in under that. So that will enable them like to, you know, have like they'll know they have the opportunity to do a story a month on something. So those are the things we're going to be looking at with this. And then obviously we're going to include the offices in this as well. But we work in a much more collaborative approach with the offices since they are led by their own elected officials than we do with the department. And then strategic goal number 3, the Public Information Office develops procedures to enhance the telling of the county story. And so this is essentially this. We're just looking at expanding that through our own media channel. So it's just a kind of a subsection of strategic goal number 2. So I won't get too much into that, but you know, we'll be looking at developing some overarching themes, highlighting this one right here, to establish a cohesive county narrative. So this is really focused on that that shared county narrative, sharing the county story, looking at the county as a holistic county government rather than the, you know, CPED does this, public health does this. How does that all integrate together? And this right here is just a SWOT analysis. This is the first time we've done that. We felt like we had enough information over the last few years to really look at where we are. So I won't dig too much into this right here, but I do want to highlight up some of our strengths that we have. You know, we have a robust owned media framework now, something we've been able to develop over the last 4 years. So that's why we're kind of able to start looking at how we leverage these tools better. You know, we have well-established relationships across the county, including with the media that your public information office does. We have standard branding guidelines, which we didn't have before. We're hoping to be able to roll out with those this year once we get our county logo policy approved. And we have a very, very engaged audience. As you saw in the annual report that we just went over, we had close to 84,000 engagements with people like engaging with our content, things like that. So those are pretty good numbers for a county government. And then right here is just our communication tools. This is mostly like looking at this type of stuff we have, things you've already heard about. We have the county newsroom, Thurston Insider. So yeah, and it has some really good followership information in there. And then stakeholders and audience analysis. So this just looks at who we're trying to communicate with. I'll kind of lift up the unincorporated Thurston County right now. So one thing we realized in 2021 was Coffee with Commissioner does a good job of actually connecting with this specific audience set and the live stream board meetings as well. So like we were able to gather that, and we just included that as a way that we communicate with this audience. So that's really what this explores. And then, yeah, that's it. So this is just a time frame. So, you know, we're going to be establishing framework and protocols for owned media and ongoing operations through the next about 9 months. And then we'll be conducting some usability testing with those processes at the end of the year. And then, you know, we'll build a strategy and all of next year and how to enhance public information capacity. So that's where we're at. I'll stop sharing my screen and pass it off to you guys.
Thank you, Brian. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, Brian, you mentioned 84,000 engagements. What does that actually mean?
So engagements, like in a context on social media, that's people that are clicking on web links to get additional information, liking our content, commenting on our content, and most importantly, sharing our content.
So they could share quite a few, and we wouldn't even know that.
Yeah. So I mean, I get analytics on I don't necessarily know who's sharing the content, but when they share something, that amplifies the message. That's why you see that. So if we were just to post something and it wasn't getting shared, our content engagement numbers would be much lower. But because we do have a pretty high share rate in terms of our content, that's why that engagement number is much higher. Because I am able to see who is engaging, or I'm able to see how many people are engaging with the content, you know, even based off shares. So
how about you made mention earlier about media placement. What does that entail?
Media placement is, so like there's two versions of this. If we write a news release and they place that news release, that's just them like, you know, placing our news release. You see this with Thurston Talk quite a bit. what I consider earned media placement is like when we do something like this in this forum, a reporter is watching it, and then they decide that that's worth a story for them, so they'll connect for additional information about that. I'll use as an example the vaccination mandates and things like that we had going on last year. I had Martine from the Olympian reach out to me, and I was able to connect him with human resources, and we were able to provide some additional context and information about what that is, how it affects county employees. That would be an example of an earned media placement.
How about you made mention of threats? Is threats kind of like hacking or that kind of a situation?
No.
What are the threats? What are you referring to?
So like threats is really like not really necessarily like in a site. It's basically like our capacity to be able to continue to to continue to expand. So right now, like you have two public information. You have a public information officer and a public information supervisor that comprise your public information office. And then, we don't necessarily oversee the departments, but, we do write procedures and policies for them. As the county continues to grow, our ability to be able to do that as effectively as we are now may become limited. That's not necessarily to say that's the case right now, but that's just something that we could face down the road. So it's just something to be aware of.
Okay. Well, thank you. Good job.
Commissioner Menser, questions, comments?
Yes. So the chart with all the tools on here, it says OpenGov Stories. It says a platform to tell county stories with a data component, can also embed photos and videos. The potential reach, it says 600 plus subscribers and is posted to social media, due date as requested. So I'm wondering, are we using that? Or is that just something that's available to be used? And if we are using it, can you give an example of what we used it for?
So we haven't made great use of this tool right now. It is something we want to make better use of going forward. OpenGov, the budget office uses OpenGov, and they actually did an online survey. I think it was probably back in 2019 when we were looking at the biennial budget then, and we got a lot of great feedback from there. So you're able to kind of tell the story about really complex information with the data component. You can even get public feedback on that. So like I said, we haven't made great use of that now. That's probably the best use we've had so far, but that is available, and we want to make better use of it moving forward.
Yeah, Robin can provide additional perspective on that, yeah.
Right. We also used it for some stories on the comprehensive plan, not the comp plan, the habitat conservation plan. And we are preparing stories in it right now to start to push out about the recovery plan, the ARPA recovery plan. So I completely agree with Brian. We have not made the best possible use of that tool, but it's super easy to use. And we've encouraged people to use it. And my team is going to start using it quite a bit more.
And that kind of gets at one of our strategic goals is, to work with the departments on the different resources they have to share their story. This would be one of the tools that we would lift up to them as an opportunity for that.
So if you're a subscriber, you'd get it emailed to you and a link, and you'd click the link. Is that how it would work?
Yeah, basically, you'd get an email. It would provide like a high level what the story is about, and then you can click on it for additional information. Then we post the story to social media, and we also put it on our county news page.
Okay, I think that was the only question that I had about. Thank you.
Madam Chair, when you get a minute.
Go ahead, sir.
Ryan, what do you have as far as links? I guess what I'm referring to is like the sheriff's office when they have their sex offender registry, or maybe crime reporting or incidents that they cover. So when citizens check in at the county website, is there a link they could go, I don't know, to the treasurer, to the sheriff, to the auditor? Is that included in some of this information that you've provided?
So it's not included. That information is available, but it's not included in this. We focus mainly on the pages that we control, which is the home page and the county news page. But on our homepage, there is a section off to the right that has our most frequently visited links. I'm not sure specifically if anything related to the sheriff's office is there, but I know we have like flooding information there. There's information to employment opportunities and lots of other different links. And then there's also a quick links tab on the website where people can click on and then find different departments and offices. But we don't track holistically like what is being clicked on across the county. Only the two main websites, the web pages we use on the website.
Well, do all the other offices have their own web page, so to speak?
Yes, to my knowledge, yes, they do.
And we don't include that in. I'm trying to think of a central location for citizens to go to, and if they're interested in what kind of burglary activity or crime activity is going on in their neighborhood, they'd go to the sheriff's site. They want to know about tax assessment, they go to the assessor, votes, to the auditor, that kind of thing. I mean, couldn't that all be included as one more efficient location for citizens to go to obtain more information about whatever their particular interest was in?
I think that is the intent of our homepage, is kind of serve as that landing area where people can get additional information. Hopefully with our website redesign, we'll be able to, make access to that a little bit better. But that's also why we want to be able to, tell the county story, effectively, because a lot of times people don't necessarily know. They know what they need to do, but they may not necessarily know where they need to go to get it. So letting people know how county government works, how it's structured, where they're able to get services at. That's what our goal is, and that's what we have that outlined in this plan.
Megan has additional perspective on that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. Commissioner Edwards, that's the intent of the website redesign project, 100%. Right now, the website's pretty discombobulated. It's a little bit more difficult to find that information holistically from the homepage, but the intent of the website redesign project is to meet those needs of the community in a single space. So right now it's a bit discombobulated, but it's going to be fixed when we go through that whole website redesign project.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions. Just thank you to Brian and also Megan for last year and making the Coffee with Commissioners an ease, really, and for coming up with just new ideas to keep citizens engaged. Okay. Anything else, Commissioners?
I do miss the Thurston County Connections theme song. That's the only thing.
Good job to Megan and Brian. We have come a long, long ways in the last, 4 or 5 years, and it's really, you have been very proactive on this. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again. So with that, we'll move.
Madam Chair?
Oh, yes, sir.
When you asked if there's any more from the commissioners, is that about this topic, or do we have any commissioner issues to talk about?
This topic, that's later on in our agenda, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Do you have anything else on this topic?
Not on this topic, thank you.
Okay, so with that, we'll go to reports. Thank you again, Brian. We'll go to reports on external boards and commissions, and we'll start with Commissioner Edwards.
I'm not going to try to rehash everything that we've went over that I've reported on earlier. It was pretty extensive over the last 2 weeks. Nothing of super import that I think the county would hone in on. I do have just a commissioner's issue when it comes up. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Menser?
Yes, thank you. I had promised to give a little more detail on the DNR plan that we learned about from Commissioner Franz at the Salmon Recovery Council. And I wasn't able to, I don't have my notes with me, but I wasn't able to get the slides, but I was able to see them and like take screenshots of them. So I just want to give you a little bit of the sense of this, because there's a comprehensiveness and a specificity to this plan that was very impressive to the Salmon Recovery Council, and that's a pretty hard group to impress. So they're calling it the Watershed Resilience Action Plan, a tree to sea plan for landscape scale restoration and salmon recovery. They're starting with a pilot on the Snohomish watershed. They picked 2 watersheds. They had 5 and they focused on 2. And the one we were looking at specifically was Snohomish watershed. And there was a reason why they picked that. It was a matter of, there's the most DNR land that impacts salmon habitat. The partners there's a chart of partners that is just incredible in terms of who all they're going to try to involve in the work. They're going to try to work with federal government as well. So where there's adjacent federal and state lands, the plan could be more comprehensive. The goals, just to give you a flavor for them. So action 1, there's like 15 different action areas. Each one has specific sort of SMART goals. So for an example, action 1 is to protect and restore submerged aquatic land and nearshore habitat. The first outcome is to protect 100% of priority nearshore habitat with a kelp and eelgrass protection zone by 2022. Second is to increase kelp forest and eelgrass meadow coverage for a net gain by 2031 with a 967 acre baseline. For action 2, and I won't go through all this, but just giving you a flavor. Action 2, improve aquatic lands and riparian habitat in the estuary. So the outcomes there are to restore habitat availability by removing 150 tons of marine debris by 2024. Improving aquatic lands, including removal of 100% of current derelict vessels by 2026. Eliminate 100% of unpermitted marinas and infrastructure and bring 100% of default leases into compliance and resolve resulting habitat impacts by 2031. So I just wanted to give a sense of that, because what impressed the group was that these are very specific things that it's not that you can measure and evaluate progress and adaptively manage and really get a sense of whether or not these goals are met. This is a plan that I think needs some funding help from the state, but when you have the Commissioner of Public Lands, developing and behind it, I think there's a good chance that will see that they'll be able to find help with this. But anyway, I just wanted to give you guys a sense of that. It was really cool to see that kind of comprehensive and specific with timelines, with measurable outcomes presented for something that I think will be very impactful if we can move through watersheds with that kind of approach. A lot of land that's on state and federal control that we could hope to see a real result. So anyway, that was the exciting thing from Salmon Recovery Council.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
So what's like the next step? Is it just getting funding, or is there something else?
Well, yes. I think that basically, this plan is really specific, and it's going on to, let's see, I'm flipping toward the bottom where it talks about funding. It's a good question. I think they really didn't get into, strategic funding, strategy. That's not really, they wanted to kind of show what their goals were. And obviously these timelines some of them are quite tight, for example, trying to create protection zones and by the end of this year. So there's obviously things that they can do immediately. It's not all like, oh, here's just something on paper. a lot of these elements, my understanding is, are going to move forward, but I think there's other ones that they're going to be needing to have some assistance from, the state government. So I don't have a great answer to that. I'll check my notes when I get back to the office, and I'll come back with more information if I've got it.
That's great. No, thank you so much for that. Okay.
I did. It was great to hear that our HB 1965 going forward. It's too bad that it's a partisan, vote. I did send the emails out to commissioners in Grays Harbor and Mason County about what we were trying to do, and I don't know if that had any effect, but I put that information together since our last check-in. I was curious, Commissioner Mejia, kind of a question for you about JazzCom, and you made reference to. I just like to know, since the board funded the, what's the timeline for the transition to, expanded county services, and kind of is there an update you could give us on that?
Yes. So JazzCom, we're already providing service to the county. That started on January 1st. So with JazzCom went ahead and started providing that, and they opened the position up. But they said that even though that position was not hired yet, they wanted to go ahead and start providing services to the full county. So that is already in effect.
Great. So they're not waiting for because there was staffing that they were hoping to have. Okay, good. Well, that's what I wanted to know. And then I guess my only other question related to boards is just that I'll be sitting on intercity transit on Wednesday for you. And is there anything you want me to know about that meeting?
Yes. And so nothing really big on the action items, but you will be giving a TRPC update. Sarah attended the meeting, and she has some notes for you to report on, and I'm just going through it and kind of just paraphrasing some issues, since her notes were pretty lengthy. She did a really good job. So I'm just going to send those to your assistant. That way you can report on that on next Wednesday. And for the canvassing board, I don't really have any updates, and you've sat on that before, so I'm sure
I'm not worried about that.
you know a little bit more of the motions. And the mayor's meeting, just a general county update. It's the mayors in the 3 cities.
Okay, is there any particular agenda item that is being taken up? Like, I know sometimes it's like, oh, we're going to talk about the home fund, or we're going to talk about RVs or COVID.
They haven't sent out an agenda yet, so I am not sure.
Okay.
Ramiro, do you have any input on that?
No, I'll be working with the city managers. I believe it's the city of Lacey who's going to be hosting.
Okay.
And then we'll drop the agenda items, hopefully prior to the meeting. And
Ramiro, you're there for that one, right, Ramiro?
Yes, is the mayor's, the chair of the board, and the administrators.
Okay, well, I'm not worried about that one, because that's, okay, thank you. That's all I have for my board reports.
Thank you, sir. And so for me, I did a presentation to the Chamber Board of Trustees this morning, and just updated them on the HCP broadband and the docket items public comment, as well as the proposal put forth by the Planning Commission to have an industrial lands study. Other than that, there was only one question asked, and it was about daycare centers. There was a presentation yesterday at the chamber meeting about, how are we supporting daycare centers? I let them know of the initiative we passed last year in conjunction with the legislature that was passed in regards to fees. But of course, there's still the concern about, is our process taking too long? I let them know that starting in September of last year, we did move to the new streamlined process for permits, but we are still dealing with COVID backlog that we've been dealing with this whole time. And we're trying to get through those as quickly as possible. But any permit filed after that, we are trying to get them on the new timeline. but there was a lot of feedback about daycare centers. So David Shafford said he would send me an email about that. So I look forward to receiving that and sharing that with the commissioners. On Transportation Policy Board, that was yesterday. The conversation was mainly about, there was a presentation by Allison, just kind of what the climate steering committee has been working on. And then there was an update on just the $75 million project for I-5, which it's very interesting. The County Road Administration Board is not against it. It's just they were expecting some funds to go to counties, and the transportation bill does not include that, but it does include the I-5. So I feel Thurston County is still in a very good spot because it does take care of one of our priorities. And then Orca yesterday, it was Fran's goodbye. It was her last day. So we passed a resolution just acknowledging all the effort and work and dedication she's had to that organization, and welcoming in the new executive director who's been already working there since the beginning of the year, just trying to get up to date with everything that's going on. Other than that, that is it for me. So if there are no additional comments or questions, I'll move on.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask Ty if he could elaborate just a little bit about what HB 1865. He made mention of it, but I don't think. What did that cover, sir?
Oh, that's the county's thing about the veterans levy and the mental health levy.
Okay. I didn't have my notes in front of me, and I just wondered what it was. Thank you.
It is 1965, Commissioner Edwards.
1965, yeah.
Okay, good enough. Got it.
Yeah, so that's exciting news. And I also sent emails. I spoke with Commissioner Trask from, not Commissioner Trask, Commissioner Pollock from Lewis County. And I know she was trying to work behind the scenes too on this. She didn't seem to be against it, so that's always good. But I'm not sure if there was any additional reach out to the legislator. Okay.
Commissioner Mejia, I have one question for you. What was the chamber group that you were talking to about all those different things?
The Chamber Board of Trustees.
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce Board of Trustees. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a small group.
Yeah. How many people were there?
There were around 15 people.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And it was mostly just general updates. Doug Ma was there, and David Shafford, as well as other frequent chamber members. There was a presentation on the balance calendar for the schools, and that's where I came in, and then I did my update, and there was also a legislative update. So okay, and then okay, so moving on to commissioner items. Commissioner Edwards.
I do have, I got about 3. Well, they could be quick items, I guess. I'm interested in canceling the mandate in the testing business for the virus, as it seems to be winding down. And I would prefer not to wait for the governor to go through the process, but that's my position. And if I don't have a second on that, that's the way it is. But I just think we need to get back to normal, and getting back to normal would mean also opening up our meeting room so the public can come in. I know that's we don't get a lot of public scrutiny, but I'll just use yesterday as an example. There was citizens in the foyer out front of our meeting room that were interested when we were talking about the lakes issue. And I suppose there's other issues. So I'd like to see us kind of get back to normal. Just wondering if, as we continue towards the remodel process or upgrade process of the 3000 building down there, if usage of REIT money, we kind of went into that with, I think, something from 1978 from the Attorney General's office, justifying that was proper expenditure. I wonder if we wouldn't be better off if we got a more recent AG opinion on usage of REIT funds in buildings that we don't own. So I just think it could solve some problems in the future if we had a more timely opinion. So that's kind of where I'm at. Those are my issues for today. Thanks.
Robin, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Regarding the use of REIT, the AG opinion that we referenced is the one that we were directed to by the MRSC. While I'm certainly not opposed to asking the AG for an updated opinion, it is the one that we used is the one that is currently counties are using, and we're referred to by the people we turn to for guidance.
Yes, I realize that, but that's from 1978. And even though we used it, I say 78, I'm not sure of the year, but it's pretty old. I believe that it does not specifically address what we're doing. And I think we ought to clarify what we're doing and the money we're using and make it match, make the request for an AG opinion match exactly what we are doing. Because that was kind of vague, if you will. So I know we used it, but I don't know if it's going to hold up if there's an appeal. So I just bring that up. Thank you.
With all due respect, it specifically states that REIT may be used on property that the county does not own, which is exactly what we're doing.
I believe that's all in question, and it's an older opinion, and that's why I'm bringing this up. So just my position on it. Thanks.
Okay. And in regards to the first matter you brought up, I believe we kind of touched on it on the Tuesday meeting in regards to opening the boardroom. I feel the same way about currently the testing option we have for employees. Commissioner Menser, I'm just going to say I feel kind of the same, just leaving it as is for now. Commissioner Menser?
I don't have any commissioner items. Thank you.
Okay. My commissioner items is in regards, as Brian was doing the presentation, I remembered a matter that was brought a while back ago, and I don't remember the outcome for it. And it was in regards to the RFP with, we sent out an RFP, and it was for contracts with newspapers, I believe, that we do, like that we contract with. And I don't remember an outcome for that. And so I was just wanting an update. And maybe it's something I just don't remember.
Yeah, I think you may recall we need to renew every year the official, what we call the official newspaper. You might recall last year's process, and I don't think for this year is coming up. We might be issue a request for proposals to secure the new official newspaper where we post all the legal notices and other legal requirements. So I think we're in the process of doing that. So did I answer your question now?
Yes. Thank you. So it's done on a yearly basis?
Yes, it's done on a yearly basis.
Okay, thank you. And that's the only commissioner item I had. Commissioner Edwards, any other commissioner items?
Nope, that's it for me, ma'am. Thank you.
So, and Commissioner Menser said he had none. County manager?
No, ma'am, thank you. The gift of time. You and I have a meeting at 11:30. You'd like to move it up after this meeting?
Yes, sir.
10 minutes? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned.